I want to go over the proper mechanics to a good sprawl. And the reason I bring this up is I've seen a lot of school fights lately where kids are getting pummeled with punches, they can't take the heat anymore, and they decide to just like shoot in for a double leg takedown. It's not the best takedown, but the guy that gets taken down doesn't know how to sprawl. And as a result, he ends up getting picked up, dumped, and when he was, in fact, winning the fight, per se, he's now on his back and pummeled on the ground. So the ability to sprawl properly, whether it is in a street fight, self-defense situation, or in the cage, is probably one of the best skills that you can have when it comes to just fighting in general. Here's the situation I'm talking about, right? If we're squared up, cage, school, doesn't matter, and I'm willing punches, now it's going to be one of two things. Either he just can't take the pummeling anymore, or I've landed a couple good shots, he's dazed, he just gets desperate and just goes for a shitty double leg to just kind of change levels and get out of the situation. The problem is that the guys in my position don't know how to sprawl. So instead of sprawling and dealing with the takedown, they either just lock on or they try and throw strikes from here. And what happens is we end up getting taken down to the ground and now I find myself in a worse position. So understanding how to sprawl properly is a great skill to have in the street and in the cage, because not only is it probably one of the best defenses for a takedown, but it also opens up the doors for you to capitalize and get to a better position and even get a little bit offensive off of it. We just talk like a head-on takedown, right? Just drives the head into the middle of your gut, tries to pick up your legs, and we get into this position. The biggest thing I want to do, because at this point the weight's essentially even on both my legs in regards to his grip, I want to keep my chest to the back of his shoulder blades as much as possible. I don't have to worry about stuffing the head in this case because it's directly on my stomach anyways, but the idea is that I'm kicking my legs up and I'm getting real heavy on the back here so that he's essentially carrying all my weight. Now, he's either going to continue trying to hold on and drive up, or it's going to get too heavy and he's going to post, either which one I'll accept. The big thing I want to focus on is I want to keep his head under my stomach and chest a little bit. I don't want to get too far up this way because, as we talked about recently, he can do an Iranian sit-through where he pretty much comes, trades positions, and again, he reverses the whole position. So what happens is when I'm here and we're dead center, I want to make sure that my chest and stomach stays directly behind his head. If he starts kind of cutting an angle a little bit and getting off to the side, then instead of me trying to get off on an angle per se, I want to continue squaring up with him and just keeping that head pressure right in front of me. So again, he's carrying all my weight, which prevents him from being able to do the takedown to begin with. Now, if the guy has a little bit more experience and understands like you want to tuck your head a little bit more to the outside like this, what I don't want to do, one, is start locking on and trying to throw strikes per se, because again, he's going to continue cutting the angle and either he's going to get the takedown or he's going to come all the way around and just take the back. Neither I want. If I decide to kind of turn into him this way, notice all my weight is shifting on that outside hip, which again gives him the takedown. So what I want to do in this situation is, as I'm sprawling, I'm actually going to take the same side hip that his head's on, and I'm going to shift all my weight to that hip. So as he continues trying to drive through and I sprawl, I'm actually sprawling down all my weight again behind his head. Now, once we've come down to the ground or I've sprawled out enough with this weight, I'm now going to switch my hip back to this side. And when I do that, I'm already now in a position where he's down. I don't have to worry about him finishing the takedown per se because I've already created that pressure. But once I do cut this angle, because essentially I'll kind of be behind him a little bit, I can either look to start cross-facing, which we'll talk about, I can start getting inside grips, or I can kind of continue working all the way around and start working towards the back. The biggest detail is understanding how to switch those hips. So when he comes in with the one side, again, as we start sprawling back, which you might initially kind of start sprawling back straight and then realize, oh crap, this guy's cutting the angle too much, switch your hip. Drive down on that hip, and then once you're in a good spot, now I switch back to where I can immediately start looking to attack. Now, regardless of what position sprawl you're at, I mean by if I'm straight up like this, or if I'm off to an angle here, or if I still kind of got my hip pressure here. Even if I've created enough pressure, if this guy is still close enough that he can grab my leg, right? Eventually he's gonna be able to create some leverage because I'm not gonna be able to stay sprawled like this forever. And as he starts kind of bringing his knees closer and closer, it's gonna be difficult for me to essentially re-sprawl, right? Or what's gonna happen is if I'm able to lock this down, he'll actually start circling around to the outside, looking to hook that leg. And eventually he's gonna cut enough of an angle that my sprawl is essentially useless, and he's capitalizing off that position. Which means now we have to actually start attacking, stuffing the head, and then working towards our better positions or just attacks as a whole. So let's just say we've switched position. I've gone back to this part now. I need to make sure that I keep this head stuffed at all times. So initially when my hip is this way, his head is stuck under my hip. If I'm straight on, his head is stuck under my belly. But once I switch to this position, I have to immediately just keep that head stuffed, because if I can keep it stuffed, again, it's going to prevent him from being able to shoot up and continue the takedowns. The other option that you have is cross faces. I'm making a tight hand and I'm just driving this across his face. Ideally, I want to look to trap behind his tricep a little bit so that he can't turn his head back into me. And again, from this situation, I'm going to continue circling all the way around. If I wanted to just essentially kind of take him down from here, I can reach and grab like the far ankle and just kind of drive in a little bit, and eventually I can work him all the way around to side control or even come up in a mount. I can also just kind of utilize this position as a tight grip and grab like the inner part of the thigh or his hip and just kind of literally buckle him down. I'm essentially into a gift wrap position already. And then again, from here, we can maintain control. The ability to do any of those attacks means that I have to be able to control this head at all times. Again, if I'm in a good spot here and I switch my hips this way and he's able to posture his head up, he can use this as a pressure to essentially like sit through and turn back into me if he wants, right? And again, I'm gonna lose that position. We might just kind of turn into a scramble. So it's not something I wanna risk. If I sprawled and defended the takedown to begin with, I want to maintain control the entire time until I get to a good position. Now, if I'm up front like this, right, I have to be careful on how I position going to either side, because again, if I just start kind of cutting here, I'm releasing that pressure, allowing the head to come up. So if we end up being straight on like this, like it's okay to have kind of like the seatbelt grip here a little bit, whatever side I'm going to. So let's say I'm going to circle to the left, I'm going to take my right hand and actually hook on the same side of the head and start pushing it to the far side, so that as I circle again, I'm in control that entire time, and then we just go right back to our same attacks. But I do have other options when I'm squared up like this. I can immediately look to kind of get like an underhook a little bit, and obviously we can start working all the different chokes that we've gone over in the past. But more importantly, if I'm looking to take position, I can utilize like a cow catcher. So I can get a good underhook here. I can look to get an underhook on the arm, and as I shoot up on the armpit, I'm gonna pull on his chin at the same time. We dunk him to the far side. I could finish a choke from here, or I switch it to a crossface, take side control, and once again, I come up into mount and just control the position. To put it all together, right, it's all gonna obviously start from standing. It could be a shitty shot, it could be a great shot, it doesn't matter. If someone's coming in for a takedown, regardless of how it happens, and they change levels right away, I have to immediately start looking to pressure down. Again, whether I start kind of clearing at the hands a little bit, again, he's gonna just go slow, he's gonna slowly start working in. So whether I start pushing here, I need to get my chest down, start working my feet back right away. If I notice like, oh, his head's on the outside a little bit, then I wanna shift my hips, make sure I pressure down, and then once I'm in a good spot, switch back, and then immediately start looking to lock things up, take position, and we go from there. So just understand, whether it's for sport or street, if somebody shoots a double leg takedown, shitty or not, you can't just rely on your ability to hold on and just start throwing strikes. Learn to sprawl out properly, learn how to apply the right amount of pressure, and when you get them all the way down to the ground, immediately look to take position and start attacking from there. Stay safe.